other interesting programs as well. It's a beautiful Sunday. It's actually quite warm. It rained cats and dogs yesterday night here in the Oyo State capital. So the weather is, yeah, a little bit cool. Well, it's good to consume, but as you're consuming, make sure you're investing much more than you're consuming. That's the best way to secure your future. While continuing our built market space outlook, and of course, we're getting a civil structural engineer's point of view to the build market space, especially for the Q1 of 2025. I've got Engineer Olauye Adekunle back here at the intersection with me. Thank you so much for coming on board. It's the B part will be rounding things off here. Thank you for your time, Engineer Olauye Adekunle.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again to speak to our great audience and listeners at home. A very good afternoon and warm Sunday afternoon to you all.
It's quite warm. It's quite warm. In case you missed out last week, we talked about. He gave us a brief market survey on. We looked at the building materials segment. We looked at construction safety in Nigeria, especially building regulations in Oyo State. We could not look at that. We could not talk about the building regulations aspect exhaustively. So we'll do that. We'll do that today, hopefully, to get a sense of how building regulations or building control should be in Oyo State. And we talked about a bill that has gone through reading but still waiting for assent by the executive. We'll talk about that, the contents partially today. We'll look at the construction output so far for Q1 of 2025. The output gives you a sense of what can happen to the country's infrastructure deficit. All right. So okay. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about the major trends of that he identifiable trends for Q1 of 2025 in the areas of skilled labor, sustainable building practices, and what have you. All of that as we continue our build market space 2025 quarter one with yours truly one plot at the intersection. Don't forget, once again, I've got Engineer Olauye Adekunle here with me. He's a building structural engineer. He does quite a lot of engineering. He wears so many hats. I don't know. He's also actually involved in transportation engineering, I guess. So that's why I want us to start out on our market, build market space outlook for the year 2025, this first quarter. We're looking at, let's look at the construction output. I mean, one thing that's identifiable is road construction across Nigeria. If you look at your state, you see that a lot of roads are undergoing construction right now, especially here in Bodija. I mean, the neighborhoods all the way down to UI and other parts of the state. It's good. But what are your perspectives, though, about road construction in Nigeria this quarter, and especially here in Ibadan?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here once again. Well, it's quite obvious that in Ibadan here, there's been a lot of facelift done to major roads, major road network within Ibadan. Cutting across Bodija, Mokola, Ring Road, and some other in the slightly interior part of the central part, the CBD, Central Business District of Ibadan. Kudos to the state government for doing that. Some people say, they're just scrapping asphalt. I said, but there's nothing wrong with the base. The bases are not bad. So they're overlaying. Now we have smooth drive. We have smooth rides. We no longer have potholes. In fact, traffic moves much more smoothly. Because anywhere there were potholes then, of course, that will slow down the traffic. And what have you is been quite pleasurable. But even in Ibadan, there's still a lot to be done.
Yes.
The link from the CBD into the interior, the outskirt part of Ibadan, there's still a lot to be done. We know that, excuse me,
It's all right.
we know that but the challenge is these things are costing, they are taking humongous chunk of the government fund,
Yes.
because it's a lot of money now to do road construction works. Unlike before, even we know that it's always been very challenging having road jobs done in Nigeria, in any part of Nigeria, because of the materials. It is highly equipment based.
Yes.
Is highly technical. Even the workmen are highly specialized
Yes.
workmen.
And eventually, you'd want to talk about quality control,
Yes.
which is what I want us to look at. I mean, from the designs to the drainage, and like you said, the priority of roads, which ones are getting attention, which ones are needed. What do you think about quality control? You've looked at those roads. In all honesty, as a transportation engineer yourself, you think that the quality is good when you
Yes.
consider the drainages, the thickness level, all of those things.
Yeah, yes, it's okay, because every road is designed for a particular period of lifetime. And when you are doing renovation, or rather when you are doing rehabilitation of roads, you are not the design lifespan of a fresh road is not applicable. I hope you get what I'm trying
Yes,
to say.
yes.
Because you are just rehabilitating an existing road. You didn't tamper with the base like it is done in Oyo State.
So you think that the base is there'll be no need. I mean, there's no
Over
need for
years,
it to
there's
go.
no need. There's actually no need.
So you can
don't-
actually renovate roads appropriately without going
no,
to the
if,
base.
if the bases are not they do not carry any fault, they don't show any sign of distress, you don't need to destroy them. So, in fact, as it is now, what government is doing is that they are using the existing asphalt, which they scarified slightly, as an addition, as a strengthener for the existing base, for the underlying base.
So you think
which
it's
is better?
it's good.
And they are now putting a fresh asphalt overlay as the main overlay. So the initial scarified surface still acts as a base. So it strengthens the material base under. So it's okay.
So you think there's quality,
Of
and
course,
taxpayers are getting value.
yes,
for
they're
their
getting
money.
value. It's okay.
What about
It's okay.
drainages?
Of course, they are also doing the drainages, because there's one thing you cannot take away from any road design or any road work: drainages. Where you don't have drainages, you are in trouble. In fact, it's almost a wasted effort if there are no drainages. And you could see what the state government has been doing in some major areas. If you go to a Calabar somewhere there now, they're doing very big drainages to take the water. Because if you do not do that, the road work that you have just done will soon be taken away, washed
erosion.
away by erosion. And then if you go to a War Road now, they're doing in fact, is a permanent last solution, which we have always advocated for government to do. Now they're just doing it. Because this is the real way. They will not take water from the main the roundabout, a way to somewhere around there. This other side of this other side of Iwo Road now, where there's a stream, there's a river. So that's what they are doing there. So that also is going to go a long way to solve the problem. Because even if you see the road adjoining the roundabout going under the bridge, it's so bad. And until they finish the drainages, they will not, and that's when they will now do that place. And by the time they do it, it's going to last longer.
Now,
So-
people are complaining about Bodija Road, for instance.
Yeah.
Now, you have to drive all the way from the market. You're familiar with that road,
Yes.
where you have like it's like a crossroad or something. What do you call that? You have to drive all the way down now to UI before you can make a turn back to Bodija. People are really complaining about that. So once you're stuck in that on that road, you'll have to get to UI before you can make a turn back
Well,
towards Bodija?
well, there are what we call access controls, either entering and turning back, which government is doing, because you look at what is happening in that place. It's a market area
Yes.
that stretches along, that has a long stretch. Trucks will want to bring in goods, and if you allow people to just turn anyhow, you could create a traffic bottleneck.
But that's what's happening now. That bottleneck has been transferred to UI Junction.
You see, not even before, but around that old trans amusement junction now, there's a turning, there's a place there where you can turn back.
No, when was the last time you drove past that place? I
No,
think that place has been closed.
No, it's not closed.
Are you talking about the part where you get back to, as if you're going to Aerodrome?
No, I mean, I mean, if you're coming from Bodija Market now,
Yes.
and you're facing UI, the trans junction, you can turn there.
But it's a stretch.
Is it
It's a little bit of a stretch.
We just look at it like that.
And since there's no overhead bridge there, it's
I
too, there's
think
there's
I
usually
even-
now a congestion at that
Yes,
part.
I even think one other thing government needs to do urgently is they need to push the people, the marketers,
Out
off
of
the
the
road.
They're already taking like a 30-40% part of the
exactly.
road.
That's a challenge
Enforcement
that
will be an
government
issue.
has to enforce now.
Enforcement
we
will be an
want
issue.
government, and I'm using this opportunity to appeal to government. They need to move the people off the road. Now the road's been done well.
But it's like
The-
they're
the
making
movement of
stores for them
people-
on the road now. They are more comfortable with their wares on the road.
On the road, where it's illegal, totally
But
illegal.
how are they going to enforce?
No,
They'll be
they
thinking
need
about
to
the
push them
forthcoming
away
general
back
elections.
into the market.
It's going to be difficult. There's an election around the corner. They won't want to get in the bad books of the
And then
people.
government will have to face the music if about the safety concerns. that
Because
it poses.
if with what government has done, the amount of funds, especially now that people are saying that the economy is somehow, government priority, I think, is tilting towards more of providing infrastructure, which is good. You know, people want to get all the value they can from every kobo that is spent.
Yes,
I mean,
but
so
for-
if you make that road now and these people are back on the roadside, taking like 30 to 40%
of the road.
of the road, then you have a very thin stretch.
That's
you
a-
know,
that's
all
where
the
the
way-
problem comes in. That's why they must take them off the road, and they must implement that. They must enforce it to be sure that the people are not on the road for safety,
Yes.
for safety concerns. Because you can, God forbid, can imagine something happening and clearing that whole stretch. You
It's
know, it's going to be very, very bad.
Yes.
So for that reason, and then for the fact that the road has now been done, there are no potholes slowing down
Vehicles.
vehicular movement.
Well, I hope that they'll be able to
So
do
we
that. I know
need
they
that-
have some operatives that usually will clamp vehicles and stuff like
And
that.
then vehicles should also not park, be allowed to
Enforcement.
park.
I know we have
on
enough
the-
civil
on the road.
servants
Yes,
to be able to
yes.
attend to
They're
this.
doing that.
You know, hopefully it will yield result. But let's take things to the federal level before we come back to regulations, building control in your state. Because it's somewhat controversial. People are saying maybe we don't have enough laws and stuff like that. Well, before we come there, let's look at road construction, where the present federal government is saying about 52% of the road done so far is in the north. You know, that's somewhat controversial. I don't know what you make of this.
It is quite controversial, and as a professional, I do not even expect such a statement. By the time you are saying 52%, you are
To the north.
To the north, you are being political, and you are being segregational. So that is not what we need in the country now. The bulk of the road network in Nigeria lies in the southern part of Nigeria, and I can tell you categorically that 70% of that bulk is begging for rehabilitation. Government is doing some works, but you see, when you do and you stop, it has to be a continuous thing.
Yes.
They are trying to do it, but they talk more about the paucity of funds, but nevertheless, that is what is still happening. Well, the roads in the north, of course, I know that you have some renovations, rehabilitations to do, but most of the roads the minister was talking about are new roads.
Yes, they are.
They are new roads, fresh construction.
Kano to, is it?
dualizations and all what have you. We know that, and of course, roads in the north are more stable.
Yes,
The
they
northern
are.
part of Nigeria has the best soil for road construction.
And then talking about road construction here, because we're looking at construction output
Yeah.
for the first quarter. Talking about road construction here in the southwest, people have, I mean, mixed reactions trailing the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. People say that this is really not our priority now, especially where, I mean, it will in the end have little impact on the economy of the southwest. I don't know what you make of that.
No, that will not be totally correct. There's no place in all my years of working, there's no place you open up a new road that you don't attract development.
Economic activities.
Economic activities in terms of land values, construction works, so many trades coming in, so many developmental
Well, you're looking at
coming
three point something trillion, or how much is it again for that
No,
road?
it's $16 billion.
In naira.
It's about is well over 10 trillion naira.
I mean, are we? When will Nigerians begin to? Will this generation begin to feel the impact in terms of? Let's just look at it from the business angle in terms of return on investment for an average Nigerian, an average taxpayer.
No, it's not going to come in that regard.
It won't come as quickly as we hope.
As a professional, if my counsel was sought, I would gladly advise that they step the project down and face some other things, renovation, or the other rehabilitation works. If we can consider injecting those funds in making our roads very highly motorable. You can imagine how smooth it is to drive within the CBD of Ibadan now.
Yes, it's nice.
It's nice. So you can imagine. Look at Lagos Ibadan. Before it used to be a dread,
Death trap.
to want to travel from Ibadan to Lagos. In fact, you think twice. But now, we travel with ease because the road is good and in good condition. The traffic on the road is lighter, and then you can move freely. Except there is, God forbid, if you have occasional accidents or truck breakdown that could slow down the traffic. Other than that, you are moving. You are sure now that if you have a meeting somewhere in Lagos, you can plan better. So you can imagine if all the trunky roads in Nigeria are in that
Mode.
in that state, that you can think of wanting to travel from Ibadan to Abuja, and you are sure by road, and you're sure it's going to, of course, 7 maximum 8 hours you are in Abuja. You would do it.
That's of course if something's been done about insecurity.
Yeah, of course, given that
all things being equal.
All things being equal. Then why wouldn't we travel? Why would we not travel? And then we also need to open up new roads. Look at that Lagos, Sokoto highway. It's been on since the days of Shagari. The road was
the president even said
abandoned.
it's been part of his vision to do something about that.
And that kind of a road
route.
is also very necessary. That road should be completed, as government has decided to complete it. It's a good thing. Kudos to them. And then some other roads within, there's Port Harcourt, Kano route. Port Harcourt.
That's what I'm saying. If you look at the construction sector, you see that the most identifiable segment where there's a lot of activities is in road construction.
It is.
I mean, when you look at housing on the part of government, I know they have the renewed cities projects or something ongoing, but it's the amount of buildings, the stock is really not significant if you plot it against the backdrop of our housing deficit.
That's for federal.
Yes, at the federal level.
You see, housing, federal has kind of ceded it to private investors to develop.
Inadvertently.
And that is what is happening all over the country. And unfortunately, it has now become an all-comers affair. And the the organization, they have an association, the REDAN, Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria.
Reading.
We had a program recently that we invited the leadership of REDAN. And he was even saying that they are trying to get a law such that whoever will have to do real estate development must be a member of REDAN. And I said, stop short. Why? What happens to us? It is our field.
There are different professionals in the built environment.
It is a built environment. It is in the positive view of the built environment professionals. Are you saying that if an architect wants to go into it, into property development,
or the builders,
or the engineers, they want to go into it, they must be members of REDAN?
Or the architects.
I said, no. We have, each of our professions have the regulatory bodies. You cannot stand as regulators. You can't regulate our collective profession.
So because of time, the construction output for Q1 2025.
But then inadvertently, it's still low. Because
the output is low.
Is low than expected. That's why the building deficit keeps increasing. Because
and the infrastructure deficit
the infrastructure deficit also keeps increasing. Because what we are injecting in
is low
per time is low.
Okay.
And the population is increasing. More people are coming into Nigeria. You may think people are not coming into Nigeria. People are coming into Nigeria in drones. Because Nigeria is a good playing ground for business to thrive. Many of those foreign nationals are coming into Nigeria to exploit our land, our opportunities, and to do business. And good enough, also they enjoy the patronage of our government. Government wants investors to come in. They are opening up the doors. Even though every state government is doing that, the federal is also doing that.
What about the state level? Do you think the construction output for the first quarter is
also low?
It's not.
It's also low.
It's low.
It's low. In fact, it's low.
When you compare with the infrastructure deficit,
of course,
from housing to road to
everything is low.
Power,
is low. In fact, if you look at the economic situation,
a lot of people are coming to town as well.
They are coming to town. They are. You now see that most of the projects are bourgeoisie projects, in terms of housing as well. They are bourgeoisie projects because it's not the idea of government. The idea government had by conceding or kind of concession the housing deficit gap bridging to private investors, private sector investors, is such that they also give consideration to the low income earners.
It's an issue that we've talked about, trying to advocate for low cost housing, affordable housing.
And of course, like I said last week, there must be development of new materials, local materials. Government has to spend money on that. Otherwise,
for the research,
and then development of these materials. I know we have a lot that have been researched
that are significantly cheaper than what we have.
Significantly cheaper, but we need to develop a technology to produce them in mass for all to use. So, but most of these property developers are no longer considering the low income earners
because they want quick yield.
They want quick yield. They want fast rate on
ROI,
rate of return on investment. So it's becoming choky. You now see them, they declare vast expanse of land, and they are planning for only the bourgeoisie.
So you're saying that the construction output is low and is lopsided?
It's low and lopsided. In fact, like I said earlier last week, a lot of the people in the very high income earning class have moved to very high. Many have moved from very high to ordinary high. Many have moved from high to medium. And many have moved from medium to low. The people that used to stay in low now, they are in low. So these are also things that government must come in to help. Government needs to come in not only providing the land, they need to regulate the way these bourgeoisies also come in. Otherwise, they will keep building properties.
We talked about housing crisis. We're really going to have you are not the only one who has said that.
We are already having housing crisis. Like I told you, there are a lot of properties in Lagos that they only operate between October, November, January, February.
And you have a lot of houses that are unoccupied all year round.
And you have houses
People
that
can't
are not,
afford to
yes,
buy these houses.
Buy,
to live
not
in.
only, they can't even afford to rent them. Like we said last week, the minister in Abuja said there'll be a clampdown on unoccupied buildings in Abuja. But there's a limit to how much you can do it. Those properties belong to people.
People in power.
The owner of the property.
Influential people.
No, even the owner of the property has right to do whatever he likes with his house.
But if the government says you can't keep your building empty all year round, they have the final say.
See, they must go back to the books
To make laws.
To make laws.
To
make laws so that they can take away that right. Because as far as I know in Nigeria, you spend your money, your hard-earned money to buy the land, to develop the property, and someone comes and says you cannot.
There has to be some kind of control, which is why we're going to talk about.
I know there must be. That is part of what. That's why government that has allowed that, they should also foresee that people will take laws into their hands. In the developed countries, you cannot build.
I want us
government does all the building, and that's why it's easy for government not to keep them empty.
Yes, I want us to talk about some market trends that you've observed this year at the different segments or segments of the industry. But let's talk about building control here in Oyo State. I know that it's not every time. I mean, houses. I sent a video to you during the week about some schools that collapsed in Ogun State, killing students. It's not quite popular yet. I think maybe the government has done some kind of damage control and stuff. Yes, but it immediately happened. We saw it. I mean, children died in the school. Not here, not in Oyo State. Before people start to quote what is not in Oyo State, obviously. In Ogun State, the outer parts of Ogun State, Ogun State has this proximity with Lagos and Idiroko and all of these places, but I think one of the border towns in Ogun State, and lots of children died. Now, what is building control like? We don't normally have those type of cases here in Oyo State. Is it because there's some kind of control in place, or we're just lucky?
Well, thank you. I think both. In Oyo State, there is some kind of control, but at the same time, also where there is where there are lapses, we have been very lucky. We've been very lucky because the only thing people listen to is law and enforcement of law.
Yes,
and government is the superpower that can do that. The day government clamps down on a particular level of stage of enforcement, everybody will comply. Government knows that. Government has that power. And that's why this government in power in Oyo State constituted a team of professionals to come together and draft
a paper,
the bill, what is to be known as the Building Control Agency Bill. And we are all invited, and
all professionals in the built environment,
all the
duly
professionals
represented
in the built environment were duly represented. Fire service, the Oyo State Fire Service was there, and then the Ministry of Justice was also there. Like that, at least majorly all the stakeholders, and then we came up with that bill. The bill, inside the bill specified the leadership, the structure for the agency, how it will rotate,
the people
how it will rotate between some professionals in the built environment, and then it identified the different classes of buildings, the bungalows, the story buildings, then the multi-story
high-rise
skyscrapers, the industrial buildings, and the permit required for each level of building, the documents of the consultants, and then what the owner has to do. That all of this had been identified, worked together, worked out in the bill. Then, much more importantly, that's at the level of approval, because the Building Control Agency function comes in at the construction stage.
Yes,
the execution stage. So, at that stage, there are different forms that have been prepared that the owner will feel before he to show his readiness to commence construction.
Without too many red tapes.
Yes. He has to show a readiness. There's a form he will fill. There's a form there's an application he will submit that he wants to commence construction works. And then there are stages, and he will have to also furnish the agency with all the permits, the approvals he has gotten from the physical planning and town planning department. And then he will also have to present his professionals. This time around, that law stipulates that you cannot build your house by yourself.
Even as a builder.
Even as, of course, even as a builder, even as an architect, you can't build yourself a house alone now.
But this is what I'm saying.
It has given responsibilities to the various professionals.
Well, when you're done with the overview, I would like you to, speak to the idea of too many red tapes, which is what sometimes affects the ease of doing business. But let's just drive home the overview.
Well,
the overview of the bill first.
Yes.
Speak to that.
The idea is for every professional necessary at every stage. Of course, like the architect, they have the responsibility of supervising the design. That is even in the National Building Code. The engineers, the structural engineers, the mechanical and electrical engineers, they also have a responsibility of supervising their designs. The builder has the responsibility of aggregating these designs together and implementing them, and himself supervised by those consultants, those other professionals.
You are looking at how many professionals on site now?
The architect,
1,
the structural engineer,
2,
the M&E engineer,
3,
and then the builder that is doing the construction.
4.
Yes, of course. There are some there's some building types that the QS must also submit the document. It's no longer a matter of why we can do away with bungalow, but there are some projects that the QS document must also be submitted as part of the approval.
And be checked all the way.
Yes, it's part of the approved document. You see, the reason is this: in building is unlike road. Building is more multifaceted than road, because the professionals that come together to put together the building, they are various. And under normal circumstances, you cannot allow one person take the responsibility of another person.
Because of time now. Sorry to interject. Now, red tapes. If this bill gets the nod, if I may, of the executive, don't you think that housing, which is in itself already too expensive, you now add all these red tapes, as far as I'm concerned, to the process, wouldn't it make housing become a little bit, if I may, more elusive for the average man?
No, I don't think so. It's just that the system we've been used to has given us a kind of in quote, a utopia. That this is how this thing has been.
We've been operating an anomaly.
We have actually been operating an anomaly. That's what we should know. Now we want to. Meanwhile, there have been laws that have not been implemented in times past, even in this regard, in the regard of the new Building Control Agency law. But then, this is the way it is supposed to be done, because we don't want to have any safety concerns again. We want people to be under checks and balances. While government is doing its duty, there must be the requisite professionals who also will be allowed to do their duty. And I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. Those professionals are insurance underwriters for that project. If anything goes wrong,
you can hold them responsible.
The law says that they must put it back. the client will just
They'll pay for it.
They'll pay for it. And
Are
put
you
it back.
serious?
I am telling you, and I'm saying this on
They
air.
will pay for it.
They'll pay for it. So
Even if it's after construction, something happens, you call them and they'll pay for it.
no, there's a different liability period.
Okay.
Beyond
okay.
that different liability period, they are free.
Thank
But while
you.
the project is going on, if anything goes wrong, those professionals will answer for it.
Thank you so much, Engineer Olaoye Adekunle. He's an engineer in different fields, but all under the built environment. I'm just going to manage to quickly talk about market trends. For me, one major trend I've observed is that people are forced now to patronize goods made in Nigeria.
Yes, that's we see.
That's a major market trend
That is
that
where,
I see.
You see, when you don't have a choice,
Mm.
you don't see what you say in the market is what you buy.
Mm.
That patronage is there, but at the same time, we're also collaborating with Standards Organization of Nigeria.
Mm.
That
The
Why-
Manufacturers Association of Nigeria.
exactly, so that no,
SON.
they are the regulators
Mm.
of the standards for the materials that get to the market.
Yes, I know, SON.
So we are telling them that.
But I think
please-
that is a good time for the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, to also step up.
as it is now, man has no choice than to step up.
Thank
They are coming up, and then they also advocating with government because they also need more enabling environment. You know, all the power issues in Nigeria,
Funding,
the power issues in
power.
Nigeria, access to fund.
Right, yeah.
These high interest rate things. These are also part of the challenges of man. But at the same time, also, while government is looking into this, Son also has to live up to his expectation.
Thank you.
To the expectation, so that we can have the right made in Nigerian.
Thank you so
materials that
much,
are of
Engineer
good quality.
Olaoye Adekunle. Thank you. It's been quite interesting. That's getting a structural engineer's perspective to the build market space for this first quarter of the year 2025. Hopefully, we'll have you before the year runs out again. Things would have changed, and we can have a market review for the year by the grace of God Almighty, the giver of life. My name is One Plot. Call me One Plot on the program. Yeah, that's what you should call me. Don't forget, you can watch this program live on the Facebook of Honor 103.5 FM. You can also watch previous editions of the program and other programs. On behalf of everybody in here, I wish you a lovely Sunday. And don't forget, as you go into the week, make sure that you're taking out time to invest. As you consume, make sure you're making out plans for investment too. Until next time, do have a fantastic, lovely week. Take care.